Hello everybody, Cody G here, Cody G TV. Race number 2 here for the channel of the 87 Cup Series. This is a 87 Cup Series AI set on iRacing. I will post a link to that in the video description and give due credit to the creator of this AI set. But it is 87 Cup Series cars here at Daytona for the 1987 Daytona 500. Going to do the full 200 laps on the sim. Got about a 40 car field. Historically, it had 42 cars. We're doing 40 because that's about the max iRacing kind of do. With trading paints to load all the paint schemes and stuff like that. So got the full field. AI is set to the difficulty range that we'll be doing for the season is 100 to 125%. So basically the most aggressive and realistic they can be. Again, like I said, we are going to do the full 200 laps. Caution laps will count. The restarts will be single file back because AI can't do the old school like single file inside restarts. So they'll be single file back. Like I said, the full 200 laps. So got 10 minutes of practice here. We're probably going to go ahead and advance that. Then every driver will have 2 laps of qualifying per normal here. I do want to go ahead and point out again, I will put the AI set link on trading paints in the video description when I do post this video. I also do want to point out, as always with trading paints and iRacing, some of the paint schemes do not load. There was one car, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. I want to say it was the 52 car. That paint scheme is not loading, but the driver name is accurate and the make and body of the car is accurate. Again, trading paint sometimes doesn't like always to properly load all the paint. So couple more minutes here of practice, it looks like, as we will bring up the controls. Got about 30 seconds left of practice here, and then we will go into qualifying. We'll actually go ahead and put it into qualifying here. Alright, here we go with qualifying. What I'm going to try to do this season is ride along in qualifying with the previous race winner. Dale Earnhardt won the 1987 Busch Clash here that we simmed previously. So we're going to go ahead and ride along with him for his qualifying laps here. Earnhardt was very quick in practice. I believe he was top 5 or top 10 here. So we'll see what kind of lap time he can lay down. Should be first lap on the clock here for Earnhardt as he heads off into turn 1 there in the Wrangler Chevy machine. Through turn 1 and through turn 2. Now to try, like we said earlier, to try to be as historically accurate as we can, there's the repave of Daytona, which happened here in the 2000s, the mid to late 2000s that we're in kind of currently, the last 10-20 years I believe. This is a 2008 version of Daytona, so as we see a lot more worn out, try to give it that historical accurateness, that's the word there. So we will have a 40 car field. It's Earnhardt top of the boards right now. Looks like Earnhardt top of the boards over Bill Elliott. We'll take a look at him now. By about 2/100ths of a second. Earnhardt on the pole with a 41.934. Elliott in second with a 41.953. Chevys make up third, fourth, fifth, sixth. The best Buick in seventh, Bobby Allison. Bill Elliott, the best Ford, in second. Earnhardt's second lap is better, 41.875. No, excuse me, that is Bill Elliott now on top of the speed charts with a 41.875. Earnhardt falls back to P5. Currently, as it sits, Elliott P1, Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak 27 will be P2, Neil Bonnet in the 75 Valvoline car P3, Bobby Allison in the Miller 22 rounds out fourth, and fifth to the Wrangler number 3 of Dale Earnhardt. Cars are completing their qualifying runs and heading pit side, and we will hit the starting grid in just a moment.
I wasn't here with iRacing when you guys started, but I've been here a while, and I've certainly been busy in terms of any length of time, right? I mean, we always have busy times, builds or events or things like that, but as long.
Alright, so here on the pole, Bill Elliott. Outside of him will be the 27 of Rusty Wallace. Row 2, Neil Bonnet, Bobby Allison. Dale Earnhardt rounds out the top 5. Outside of him will be the 29 at Cale Yarborough. Benny Parsons in the 35 will be P7. Outside of him, the 28 at Davey Allison. And making up row 5, the 17 Tidemobile of Darrell Waltrip. Outside of him, the Levi Garrett number 5, Jeff Bodine. Kyle Petty in the Sitgo number 11 or number 21 is 11th. Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit car P12. 13 goes to Morgan Shepherd. 14, Alan Kowicki. 15th to Michael Waltrip. 16th to Richard Petty. 17th, Terry Labonte. Donnie Allison there in 18th. 19th, Phil Parsons. Dave Marcus will start P20. 21st to Rick Wilson, and 22nd to Ron Bouchard. 23rd to the 56, Ernie Irvin. 24th to the 8, Bobby Hillen Jr. 25th there, again, that's one of those paint schemes not loading here today from Trading Paints, though. That is the 18 of Dale Jarrett. Outside of him, the 15 of Ricky Rudd. Greg Sachs is 27th. Joey Ridley, 28th. Derek Cope, 29th. Brett Bodine, 30th. 31st, Ronnie Thomas. JD McDuffie, 32nd. 33rd, another paint scheme not loading. That's a 52 of Jimmy Means. And outside of him in 34th, that's a 67 of Buddy Arrington. Mark Stahl will be 35th. 36 will be Steve Chrisman. Chet Phillip will be 37th. 38 will be Rodney Combs, excuse me. Jimmy Sauter, Connie Saylor will end the field. So Bill Elliott on the pole. Rusty Wallace outside of him. 200 laps the distance, 500 miles here at Daytona. As the pace car rolls off. Next time out of 4, we will get the green flag. So it seems like, okay, there he is. Bobby Allison was not wanting to show up there. Take a look at that wonderful field of cars here heading through turn 2, about to come down the back stretch. Next time they come through here, it'll be under full speed. If I can remember right though, pit stops about every 40 to 45 laps on fuel. Or haven't changed any of those percentages with fuel or anything like that. So in the range of 40 to 50 laps, maybe a little earlier. We'll have to wait and see. But should be a couple pit stops, hopefully some green flag pit stops we'll try to catch and see how that goes. But field is now in turn 3, getting close to turn 4 here. Pace car will soon pull off, and Bill Elliott and Rusty Wallace will lead us to green.
Green, green, green.
Elliott, Wallace, green flag is out. 1987 Daytona 500 here on Cody GTV. Elliott out with the early lead. Here comes Neil Bonnet on the inside of Rusty Wallace as the race is on for second place. Elliott's going to go down low and cover as we're 2 by 2 throughout the field. Elliott leading the inside lane. Rusty Wallace outside. Rusty Wallace now makes his move out to a push. Rusty Wallace is going to take over the race lead now. Wallace setting the pace early. Lap 1 in the books. Lots of moving and shaking throughout the field. Earnhardt's going to fall back to 9th now. Richard Petty is up to 11th. Neil Bonnet's going to get by Bill Elliott now for 5th. Yarborough up to 2nd around the 29 of Bobby Allison. Or excuse me, the 29 of Yarborough. Bobby Allison up to 3rd in car 28. Bill Elliott has fallen back and settled into the 8th position now. Lots of moving and shaking here early. As Rusty Wallace continues to set the way over a pair of Allisons. As Neil Bonnet now is looking to make a run into 3rd. Neil Bonnet, the Valvoline 75 car, he's going to separate a pair of the Allisons. As Dale Earnhardt dropping back 2, he's now going to settle into 15th. Richard Petty's going to move up and into the top 5. Lots of moving and shaking here. Plenty of time, though, to go. So Rusty Wallace continues to lead over Bobby Allison. Something has happened to Ron Bouchard way off the pace. Let's try to get a look and see what happened to him. Ooh, got the outside wall a little loose there. That's going to have him way off the pace. So we'll go back live here now to your leader, Rusty Wallace. Ron Bouchard, 1 lap down. He's going to bring it in pit side. Rusty Wallace continues to lead over Bobby and Davey Allison. Jeff Bodine, P4. Richard Petty still tucked into that 5th spot. Not much passing now. The race has kind of started to settle down here. As Petty's now up to 4th. Bobby Allison going to fall back to 5th. Here comes Richard Petty with some momentum as Davey Allison also going to try to get the inside line going. He's going to put the move on the 5 of Jeff Bodine. Jeff Bodine now is going to fall back to 3rd. Rusty Wallace has still been the car to beat here. This time at the line, 5 laps complete for the Kodiak 27. So far, it's been all Rusty Wallace to this point. Richard Petty has probably got one of the fastest hot rods out here, him and Bill Elliott. As Elliott's now up to 5th. Darrell Waltrip's going to just get by Benny Parsons now to pull into the top 10. Petty's up to 4th. As the 3 of Dale Earnhardt has settled into the 17th position. He kind of dropped the anchor on the initial green and fell back. He's going to have to try to work his way back up to that front. That car definitely has speed and potential. We'll have to see what's in store throughout the race here for Earnhardt. As it's still Rusty Wallace over Davey Allison now. Jeff Bodine going to tuck into 3rd. Here comes Davey Allison on the bottom. He's going to look to better his current position and take the lead away from Rusty Wallace. Wallace is going to block the momentum. Davey Allison is going to continue to fight for 2nd now, as it's a 3-car battle between Allison, Jeff Bodine, and Bobby Allison. Davey in car 28 there, currently P2. Elliott now back up to 4th. He's going to get around the 22 of Bobby Allison. Harry Gant and Cale Yarborough are entering the picture. Not far behind them, the 35 of Benny Parsons. Field heads into turn number 3. Rusty Wallace continues to lead here. Not much moving and shaking. Let's take a couple minutes. We're going to ride on the inside of Rusty Wallace's car here for a lap or so. So it was on board there with Rusty Wallace. Hear him feathering the throttle here, these old cars. This was back before restrictor plates and a lot of other stuff like that. So just wide open here around Daytona, having to actually use a little bit of throttle control around this 2.5-mile speedway. During that onboard, Jeff Bodine has settled back into 2nd. Bill Elliott is now up to 3rd. The 28 car Allison had a little bit of a fall off there. Let's see if we can maybe try to get a replay of Earnhardt got into a crash there. What happened with him? Racing with the 70. Contact put Earnhardt into the wall. That's going to put him behind on the day now. He managed to, looks like he got it towed back to the pits. Steering looks like it might have some severe damage there on the Wrangler number 3 car. We'll go back live. Earnhardt has kept it going in the 18th position. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Let's try to get a little bit of a fast forward here. So he managed to get it going. Not quite sure on that. Believe damage is on. I might have car damage disabled. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Damage is definitely on because Ron Bouchard had to go pit side in the 47. He's currently 8 laps down. Not sure how Dale Earnhardt managed to save that car. Still going to try to figure this out for you because I am curious. There he sits, and now he disappears. So he managed to get it towed to the pits. Who was that pulled out behind him? Was that the Levi Garrett car? Something happened also to Bodine. But Bodine's still going to roll in third. Did we? A little bit of interesting stuff we kind of missed here. Sorry about that. But Rusty Wallace is going to continue to lead over Bill Elliott. Benny Parsons now P3. Darrell Waltrip there, fourth position in the tie, number 17.
The yellow flag is out.
So we have a yellow flag here. Ooh. What exactly happened there? Looks like Harry Gant was the culprit. 33. Try to get to him here. See what happened to him. So Gant pulls off, brings the 64 car down, and that just checks everybody up. Big pile up there. 51 car on its lid, or 57 car, and it's going to take a tumble. Jody Ridley, tough break here at Daytona. They're going to manage to get that car corrected. 81 at Chet Phillip also involved. Steve Chrisman, Jim Sauter, and more. So Rusty Wallace, 15 laps in the books. He's been out front for most of it. Bill Elliott in P2. That's why we're under caution. Let's maybe try to see what happened to Dale Earnhardt earlier. Fast forward some. So we knew he made it to the pits fairly quick. Must not have been too badly damaged on that car as he made it back out. Didn't even lose a lap. So Wallace also pitted that lap. So about 15 laps it seems like in there. So pit stops must have been what saved Dale Earnhardt there. Lap 15 had some pit stops. Jeff Bodine's going to head pit side. Elliott's going to stay out. Wallace comes pit side. Bunch of cars on pit road. Wallace is in. Bodine is in. Ricky Rudd, Brett Bodine, Jimmy Means is in. 52. Buddy Arrington, Rodney Combs, Jimmy Sauter. A bunch of those damaged vehicles are in. Rusty Wallace pitted from the lead, I believe. So I'm going to show him P7. That should cycle back out. He's out. Jeff Bodine is out. Ricky Rudd heads out. Rodney Combs behind him. Brett Bodine is heading out. Jimmy Means, Buddy Arrington, Jim Sauter's going to make his way back out. Chet Phillip still in the pits in the 81 car. Harry Gant still in the pits. Joey Ridley and Ron Bouchard has made it out. That's your 40th place car, 9 laps down. So Bill Elliott, the fastest car here so far, started on the pole, has now made it back out to the lead. Dale Earnhardt managed to get that lucky break of some pit stop cycles, and that he had that incident. It looked like it knocked some steering out, but then the leaders came to pit, and he really didn't lose any time on that. So everybody has gone about 17 laps or so for most of the leaders. As the field continues here under caution. While we're under caution here, let's try to find Rusty Wallace here. See why all the leaders came to the pits so early. Was his lap set? So lap 15. That was when the caution came out. So looking at his lap times here. Go with Dale Earnhardt here. Looks like we're going back green. We'll try to figure that out on another day and time. Bill Elliott's going to lead. Single file restart here. He's getting up to speed over Yarborough. Darrell Waltrip third, Allison fourth, and Benny Parsons is fifth. Yarborough going to peek to the outside. He's going to try to make a run for the top spot over Bill Elliott. Around the outside. Yarborough's looking to make the move. Darrell Waltrip and Benny Parsons behind him. The inside lane, Elliott, Allison, and Neil Bonnet. As a little bit of a checkup maybe there for Elliott. And Yarborough is going to shoot out to a 0.3 of a second lead in the Harvey's machine. I believe for the first time today, Buick now leads the field. Wallace, after the restart, is going to tuck into 25th. Earnhardt back there in 19th. Some notable names here. Richard Petty has fallen way back, it looks like. Try to find him on the... No, Richard Petty, 6th. Yarborough gets past Elliott, leads the lap there. Benny Parsons now up to 2nd. Good run going for him. Darrell Waltrip gets by Yarborough now for 3rd. Yarborough starting to fade after having the lead there for a moment. Richard Petty now up to 4th. He's going to get around Yarborough. Yarborough is a sinking ship right now. The anchor is out of that car. They are falling back quick right now. So Waltrip is going to start the battle now for the 2nd spot. Six cars on the lead lap now as Bill Elliott leads over Darrell Waltrip. Richard Petty, your top 3. Neil Bonnet's going to get by Phil Parsons there on the outside. He's got his sights now set on the 35 of Benny Parsons. That Folgers machine is P4. Kowicki now going to try to make a run on the 28 of Davey Allison. Terry Labonte now up into the 17th spot. Rusty Wallace cracks the top 20 again after the pit cycle stops. Kyle Petty's going to move up to 13th in the sit-go car, as something might have happened there to the 52 car, 56 car. Ernie Irvin there. Dale Jarrett behind them. Again, that's a paint scheme not loading. Davey Allison now in the 28 car. He's going to crack back up into the top 5. So we'll check back in on the leaders here. It's still awesome Bill Elliott leading over Waltrip and Petty. Elliott leads through 3 into 4. This time at the line will be completing lap 24, about to start 25. Still Bill Elliott out to the early lead. Single file through most of the top 10. Not much passing there. As it looks like Kyle Petty and Cale Yarborough racing for 12th. That's about their closest battle right now. Things are starting to smooth out here, getting later in this run. As Rusty Wallace is the highest placed car that is pitted. He pitted on lap 9, it appears. Everybody else still has yet to pit in terms of the leaders. Jeff Bodine also pitted, and Rodney Combs has pitted. So we'll see how the pit cycles will unfold here, as I would expect them maybe in as early as the next 10 to 20 laps or less. By lap 50, we should have pit stops. Continue to watch battle for the lead here. Waltrip a tenth of a second back off of Bill Elliott. Kenny Parsons P3 still. Davey Allison 4th. Richard Petty's going to tuck in and ride in the 5th position. Right now it's just getting to the point. Not a lot of passing, just kind of riding some laps here. Rusty Wallace now up to 12th. He's inching closer to that top 10 spot. It's been 11 laps since he last pitted, so he pitted on lap 17. So Elliott continues. Here comes Waltrip. Waltrip now scored the leader on the leaderboard. Benny Parsons close in tow. We got a battle for the lead. Waltrip a little bit squirrely there. Elliott's going to hang with him. Waltrip still scored as the leader at the line. Waltrip will lead the lap. Here comes Benny Parsons on the bottom. Elliott's going to have to maybe get some help or something up on the outside to try to get some aero and get some momentum. He's going to raw horsepower it back out to the lead as he gets around Waltrip there. Waltrip now, Benny Parsons is going to get by him. Tires maybe a concern here. Waltrip really starting to tank. He's now back to 5th. Elliott continues to lead. Waltrip now back up to 4th. Nobody on pit lane. Neil Bonnet and Benny Parsons now. Kowicki up inside the top 5 in the 4th place position in that Ford Thunderbird. Waltrip settles into 5th. Petty back to 6th. Donnie Allison up to 7th there in the 54 machine. As Benny Parsons now makes the move. He's going to secure 2nd. Getting really racy here late in this run at the front. Again, the top 11 have not made a pit stop. Rusty Wallace in 12th is the first car that has pitted 14 laps ago. Everybody else still 31 laps on the stint. Be curious to see what of, if any, difference Rusty Wallace's tires can make here. Tires have never really been talked about much of, especially in today's modern age, of being a concern here at Daytona. It'll be interesting on these 87 cars to see if that is a concern. It's a battle between Benny Parsons and Neil Bonnet for 2nd continues. Bonnet there on the outside, Parsons on the bottom. He's got Waltrip behind him there. Elliott now pulls out to an almost 4/10 of a second lead. Kowicki now up into 3rd. Parsons going to have a little bit of fall off. Waltrip falls back to 5th. Waltrip now going to get back by Parsons for 4th. Rusty Wallace up to 11th now. Looking to get by Davey Allison for P10. Starting to check pit lane some more. Pit stops should be imminent. 32 laps in the books. Currently on lap 33 as the field heads into turn 3 here. Fastly approaching a quarter of the way home. Elliott over Bonnet and Parsons. Donnie Allison P4, Waltrip now, and Kowicki battling for the 5th spot. Waltrip there on the inside, Kowicki outside of him in car number 7. Race is on for the 5th spot. Very cool track temp as we see here on your screen in that top right corner. Looking at about 97 degrees Fahrenheit. So fairly cool day for a February day here. Lots of cloudiness and overcast. As we say that though, it looks like the sun's starting to peek out as the field goes through 3 and 4. So definitely going to be a dynamic track change. We'll see how handling and such alters these cars. So we'll take a look back at your leader, Bill Elliott. And then there's a little bundle of cars there. Benny Parsons, Donnie Allison, Neil Bonnet, and Darrell Waltrip. 2nd through 5th or 2 by 2 trying to sort themselves out. So Kyle Petty's making a late run here, he's going to get by the 75 of Bonnet. Bonnet kind of dropped anchor there. So Rusty Wallace now up to 8th. Kind of missed that there. Rusty Wallace back up into the top 10. Behind them, the 26 is Shepard. Davey Allison kind of completes the pack of the leaders. A little bit of gap back to Rick Wilson there in the 4 car. Cale Yarborough tucked into 12th. 13th, Phil Parsons. 14th, Ernie Irvin. Top 15 is 71. cracks the top 20 again. So he's going to get by the 50 of Greg Sachs. Right behind them, 5 of Bodine. He's going to move up to 22nd. Top 6 cars or so have a breakaway. Kowicki, Allison, Shepard, kind of there by themselves. Then Wallace and Yarborough, and a little bit back to Rick Wilson there in the 4 car. Elliott continues to lead here. His best lap was a 42.4. His last lap was a 43.9, so we're over about, what is that, a second and a half of fall off. Benny Parsons now looking to make a run to the outside. Not going to have much help here. Kyle Petty is going to jump down to the bottom here. Donnie Allison now found his way up to the 2nd spot. Waltrip now settling in the 3rd spot. Bonnet up to 3rd. Kyle Petty's going to fall into 8th. He was in the top 5 there for a minute. Seems like some handling might be going away on the Citgo 21 car. Bill Elliott continues to lead. Darrell Waltrip in 2nd. Neil Bonnet P3. 4th. 7 of Kowicki. 5th, the 26 of Morgan Shepard. We are on lap 40 here, nearing quarter of the way mark. Here comes Waltrip now, looking to make a move on the outside of the Coors number 9. Waltrip is going to make it as Bill Elliott's off. Bill Elliott to the pits. We will ride with him. Doesn't seem like anybody else has came with them. It's going to be Elliott peeled off from the lead. He's going to be all by himself here, heading to pit lane. He pulls the Coors machine pit side. See how this does. We'll go to Waltrip now, peeling off. Waltrip is going to pit. He's going to bring, I believe that's Parsons with him. Benny Parsons. Kowicki is now going to cycle out to the race leader as Elliott now has came back out. We got Waltrip, Parsons, Waltrip, Parsons. Try to find it better. Combs is still out. McDuffie pits. Elliott was the first to pit. He's now in the 36th position. Neil Bonnet, currently your race leader. He's going to pit. Here come a bunch of your leaders. Bonnet is in. Bodine is out. Ricky Rudd is. Neil Bonnet's in. Morgan Shepard. Kowicki. Yarborough. Davey Allison. Donnie Allison. All the leaders are in. Rusty Wallace continues to stay out. He's now your leader. We'll take a look at pit lane here. Who's going to be the first car off? been caution free. We've had one caution, I believe, to this point. Let's see, Neil Bonnet's out. There's Parsons. Here's your race off. See how it cycles out. So go back to your race leader. Rusty Wallace still leading over Jeff Bodine there in third. Second half back, Ricky Rudd, P3 here. Bill Elliott now, he was the race leader, the first car to pit. He's now cycled up to, shows 10th on my end. I'll see this time at the line. Jeff Bodine. So currently on my end scored, Rusty Wallace leads over Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd P3, Brett Bodine 4th, Jimmy Means will be 5th in that 52 car. Again, there's another paint scheme that is not loading. Jim Sauter will be 6th, Buddy Arrington 7th, Rodney Combs 8th, 9th will be Bill Elliott. Now Dale Earnhardt, see how he kind of blends in. Earnhardt's going to be about 15th, more or less, when it all cycles out. So that early pit stop has really helped Rusty Wallace, and especially that group that came 28 laps ago. I believe that was about lap 15 or 17 was the caution. Not going to do the rough math there, but the leaders went about 40 laps. So within the next 10 laps or so, the top 8 should have to pit. That'll be Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd, Brett Bodine, Jim Sauter, Jimmy Means, Buddy Arrington, and Rodney Combs in about the next 10 laps or so. As Bill Elliott now is 9th, 1 lap down, but he is soon going to catch your race leader, Rusty Wallace, who is leading again that group of 8 cars that pitted early. So here soon as it cycles out, in theory, Bill Elliott will be your race leader, and there's going to be about a 10 to 15 lap discrepancy between most of the field and those 8 cars listed. Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd, Brett Bodine, Jimmy Means, Buddy Arrington, Rodney Combs, Jimmy Sauter. So Bill Elliott's going to look here to get his lap back. See how Rusty decides to respond here. So Bill Elliott's going to get by him on the outside of the tri-oval. Bill has cleared him. Waltrip is currently 10th. Him and Elliott, that should be P1 and 2 here once the rest of the pit cycles happen here in the next handful of laps or so. Definitely can kind of start to see that tires are important, as these guys that have just pitted have been kind of knocking the doors off of Rusty Wallace. Getting really interesting to see here. Cars are everywhere. 9 cars on lead lap, 8 cars on lead lap now as Bill Elliott has got back by. Dale Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, Donnie Allison, Earnhardt's P12. Once this cycles out, that should put him at about the top 5. So despite having to fix the damage and that early incident, and then hitting the caution and all the yellows, and the caution, all the leaders pitting there early, pit stop cyclage, if that's a word, might help Dale Earnhardt. Wallace continues to lead. So Waltrip now is going to make it by him. I believe that's McDuffie there in the 70s going to make it by him as well. Jeff Bodine actually now is your race leader. He's on the same pit stop cycle as Wallace. Wallace kind of got hung up there by guess you could say lap traffic. And the Levi Garrett number 5 is going to take the race lead. So we are on lap 51 now, so we are a quarter of the way complete. Your top 5 at this moment: Jeff Bodine over Rusty Wallace, Ricky Rudd, Brett Bodine, and Jimmy Means rounds out your top 5. 6 goes to Buddy Arrington, 7th to Rodney Combs. Those guys are all about 34 or 35 laps on this fuel run, so they should have to pit soon. Bill Elliott last pitted 9 laps ago. Darrell Waltrip 8 laps, Neil Bonnet 7 laps, so 8th, 9th, and 10th currently should be your top 3, with Dale Earnhardt in 4th. Once we start to see some more pit stops here, and I would say about the next 5 to 10 laps for sure. I believe Bill Elliott pitted on exactly lap 40? 42 for Elliott, I believe. So Jeff Bodine leads over Rusty Wallace and Ricky Rudd. As Jeff Bodine continues to lead here, we're going to go to the in-car camera. We'll be back in a moment. So here we are. Bodine still leads. About a second back, Rusty Wallace. Earnhardt now gets by Rusty Wallace. Bill Elliott and Darrell Waltrip battle for that 8th spot. Now remember, like we've talked about the last couple minutes, that should in theory be your race for the lead any time now. As we will, let's take a look at pit lane here. Somebody's on pit lane. Jim Sauter still with damage repairs. Let's see what happened to him. That didn't work. Alright, we'll go back live with Jeff Bodine. Jim Sauter's been in there for nearly 4.5 minutes, so must have been some damage for him. Didn't catch that, wasn't able to pull the replay up. As Wallace got by Bodine there. Darrell Waltrip and Bill Elliott continue to battle for what is currently 8th position right in front of your leader. They've been side by side, neck and neck. Goes Bill Elliott, kind of lost some momentum there. So did Darrell Waltrip. Rusty Wallace having a little bit of a surge there. He's going to get back and put him back a lap down. Dale Earnhardt still up there in the mix. Let's see. Rusty will go another lap. Got cars on pit road. Chet Phillip, I believe. Jim Sauter still are on pit lane. Wallace continues to lead. 40 laps on this run. He's headed down the back stretch. Within the next 2 or 3 laps, I would think he should pit. Here's your leader. Your leaders are pitting. Wallace, Bodine. Any more with Ricky Rudd. Wallace, Bodine, and Rudd. 4th place, Brett Bodine should become your new leader, but he's going to have to pit soon. Rusty Wallace came in as the leader. More cars coming in. The 64. Looks like the 57. Go back to your leader, Brett Bodine. So we cycle through some pit stops here. Looks like Wallace is out. All the leaders are out. Brett Bodine pulls it in. Earnhardt is now going to lead over Bill Elliott and Darrell Waltrip. Elliott going to look to peek to the inside. Earnhardt out to should be the race. Okay, there's my updated scoreboard. Earnhardt leads over Waltrip, Elliott, Neil Bonnet in 4th, and Benny Parsons in 5th. So now there's 11 cars that pitted about 16 to 18 laps ago. Rusty Wallace will cycle up into 12th, still on lead lap. 4.5 seconds off the leader. No. Waltrip, we missed it again. Starting to feel like one of those mainstream NASCAR broadcasters here. Fox. As Darrell Waltrip has made it by Dale Earnhardt for the race lead. Elliott, Bonnet, Parsons, Allison. 6th position. 7th, Morgan Shepherd, Rick Mass, 8th, Davey Allison, 9th, and 10th, Ernie Irvin. Dale Jarrett right with them in 11th, and then it's a gap back to Rusty Wallace in 12th. Earnhardt, Waltrip battle for the lead. A race that's been fairly caution-free. We had one early caution, then we've had some green flag pit stops cycle out. Earnhardt last pitted 17 laps ago. Elliott last pitted 20 laps ago. So they're about halfway through this fuel run. And then we can expect, in theory, Rusty Wallace, Ricky Rudd, Jeff Bodine to make a surge. They're 12th, 13th, and 14th. But then 15th through 25th pitted about 18 to 20 laps ago. So pit stops are really going to have this running order shaken up right now, as there's a bunch of varying strategy throughout the field. A lot of cars now are on a similar strategy, but there's still about 5 to 10 cars that have only just pitted. So be interesting to see how this all shapes out. So they work around Jim Sauter there. Earnhardt leads. Bill Elliott's going to try to get by on the outside. He's hung up behind that lap car. Is that Chet Phillip there? Excuse me, not Jim Sauter. Chet Phillip in the 81 machine. Still trying to learn my 87 roster. Should get better as the season goes by. Earnhardt to the outside there of Chet Phillip. Going to bring Bill Elliott with him. 75 a Bonnet. Darrell Waltrip in 5th. He's going to get hung behind him now. Bonnet still to the outside. Bonnet's going to make a move there for 2nd. He's going to get around the Coors number 9. Benny Parsons going to try to get some momentum going. Can't quite do it. 63 laps in the books as the field heads into turn 1. Just completed lap 63 on lap 64 here. Track is starting to warm back up, as we talked about earlier. It was about 94, 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Now hit about 102 as we see it started to get brighter. The cloud cover's gone away and starting to get a lot more sun here. As we see the rubber kind of build up, we'll see as the track conditions will change at all here today. So Earnhardt still leads. Benny Parsons now in 2nd. Darrell Waltrip 3rd, as they're still trying to work through Chet Phillip there in the 81 car. Seen the flames there out of the 9 car, having to feather that throttle a little bit. Earnhardt has about a 10th.5 lead over Parsons. Top 3 have cleared the lapper of Chet Phillip. Darrell Waltrip has had a difficult time getting by him. Battle now for 2nd. Elliott on the outside, followed by 4th place Darrell Waltrip. They're going to get by Benny Parsons. Parsons now from 2nd to 4th. They're all going to fall in line. 5th place Davey Allison now has to deal with Chet Phillip. He's going to go around him on the outside and bring Bonnet with him. Shepard now up to 7th. He's going to get around the 54 of Donnie Allison. Again, use that lap car kind of as a pick there as your race is for the lead. Bill Elliott had the car underneath of Earnhardt. Waltrip now up to 2nd. Parsons going to try to get a run to the outside. He's going to do just that. Scored P3 there. Bonnet's going to get by Elliott. It's Chevrolet 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by a pair of Ford Thunderbirds in 5th and 6th, Allison and Elliott. The best Buick LeSabre in the field is 6th. That's the 26 of Morgan Shepherd. So go back, watch your race for the lead. Bonnet with a little wiggle there. He's going to hold on to it. As here comes your leaders. First one in, Darrell Waltrip. Is he going to bring anybody with him? No, he's not. Darrell Waltrip. See what he does. Waltrip down pit road. He heads at pit side. See if Earnhardt or any of the other leaders come. Not this time. Somebody's looking at it behind them. Somebody else went. Not quite seeing it this time. Race leader Dale Earnhardt heads into turn 3. See if he pits here this lap. Nope, gonna go another. He's only 26 laps on this run. So they're gonna put the lap to the number 17 of Waltrip. Check a pit lane there. Still not seeing anybody come in. Leader should be good for about another 10 laps or so. Not quite sure why Waltrip came in. He had a long, must have been for some damage. He had a minute pit stop. Now he seems like he might be off the pace. Let's see if we can maybe get a replay. Not seeing anything that pertains to Waltrip. Interesting. Parsons now gets by Dale Earnhardt. They're hung up on a lap car. Earnhardt bonnet on the outside. Bill Elliott try to make the pass on the bottom. Jim Sauter, I believe that is. 9 laps down after some early damage from an incident. Giving some grief to the race leaders. Parsons leads over Earnhardt, bonnet. Davey Allison P4, Bill Elliott in the 5th spot. Earnhardt now clears Sauter. Here comes your race for the lead. Earnhardt's going to blow right by him. Parsons has had the speed, but not so much in the clean air. It's one thing to get to the lead, it's another thing to hold it. It's been a good, solid top 5 car. Hasn't had race leading or winning pace quite yet. Waltrip now 2 laps down in 35th. Still not sure what happened to him. Let's bring up the iRacing menu. Check his last couple laps. Hit a 52-second lap here on lap 68. Try to fast forward. Didn't see any damage. Nope, just peeled off and pitted. Had a long stop. And we will go back live here. Earnhardt over Parsons, Neil Bonnet in 3rd. Davey Allison going to get by, take P3 Elliott. Ooh, a little check up there for Allison. Bill Elliott's going to get by him on the outside. Earnhardt continues to lead. Your top 6 cars all pitted 32 to 35 laps ago, so probably within the next 5 to 8 laps should be seeing pit stops out of the leaders. Rusty Wallace P7. He's the most, probably the freshest out of all of them. Pitted 18 laps ago. He's P7, so Wallace should get the race lead for a little bit, but then 8th, pretty much 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th are all on the same pit strategy as the leaders. And Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd, 12th and 13th, then 14th, pretty much through 25th is all on about that same pit strategy of pitting about 35 laps ago. So it'll be interesting to see, follow along to that, see what pit strategy continues to do here. That early pit strategy might help Rusty at the end, or it might hurt him. We've basically almost made it approaching the halfway point here. About 3/8 of the race completed so far. Pit strategy really hasn't helped Rusty Wallace much of, if at all, as he's currently still P7. So see what he does. Maybe he'll decide eventually to come with the leaders, get back on pit sequence, and try to get back up there in contention. He led a bunch of laps here early. As they approach the 33rd place car of Mark Stahl. He's currently on lead lap, about to go one lap down. 33rd place car, last car on lead lap. So Earnhardt looks to go around him on the outside. Going to bring Benny Parsons, Neil Bonnet, and Bill Elliott with him. Leaders go right by him. Morgan Shepherd got hung up for a little bit. The leaders about top 5 single file around the bottom so far, trying to log some laps here, approaching the end of this fuel run. Parsons has some momentum on the outside. He's going to take it. Earnhardt going to fall back now to 3rd as Bill Elliott's going to get by him. Last time we kind of seen a fall off like this was when Darrell Waltrip went to pit, so let's see, maybe it's getting close for Earnhardt. Last pit stop for your top 2 was 39 and 38 laps ago, so they're right on the window. Might see the leader, should see the leaders pit within the next 3 laps or so. Bill Elliott to pit. He's going to be the first one in, all by his lonesome, it looks like. So that's going to give Davey Allison, because of the kind of checking up there and all the leaders making their move, Davey Allison now is going to be the race leader. Earnhardt's falling back to 5th. So Bill Elliott is pit side. There comes the 8, I believe, of Bobby Hillin Jr. He's out of pit road. Bill Elliott's in, Yarborough's in, Kowicki's in. Here come some of the leaders, maybe. Parsons is in. Chrisman, Connie Saylor. Here comes Petty. McDuffie's in. Waltrip should be coming in anytime soon. No, Waltrip should be good. Let's go through the field here. Earnhardt's in. He's bringing Neil Bonnet with him. Just those 2, it looks like. Davey Allison continues to lead over Morgan Shepherd. There goes the 6 car, Connie Saylor, a lap down. Steve Chrisman comes out. They're going to get by him. Rusty Wallace should cycle out to the leader as Davey Allison, Morgan Shepherd head pit side. Donnie Allison's going to join them. So Rusty Wallace and probably Darrell Waltrip is 2 laps down. Yep. So right now, your first car. So Bill Elliott should be in prime candidacy in about the next 20 laps once things cycle back out. Rusty Wallace now leads about 4.5 seconds back to Jeff Bodine. Ricky Rudd even farther back, about 9.4 seconds off the lead. Brett Bodine, P4. Buddy Arrington has managed to get up into the top 5 on this cycle. As all your pit stops continue to cycle out, comes Davey Allison out of the pits. Donnie behind him. Earnhardt's out, back up to speed. He's going to be P10, 1 lap behind now. And when it all unravels, Bill Elliott will lead over Neil Bonnet. So right here is 8th and 9th. That is your race for the lead. Neil Bonnet's going to get by Bill Elliott. Earnhardt's P3. So about 12-ish laps to go before your top 7 should have to pit. So 8th place is the position to be, but then that those group of cars only be good about 15 laps. So there's about 15 lap difference between the top 7, and then pretty much the rest of the field now is on the same pit cycle. Rusty Wallace still leads by 5.3 seconds over Jeff Bodine. Then it's 10 seconds back to Ricky Rudd, 26 seconds back to Brett Bodine, almost nearing a lap, 30 seconds behind to Buddy Arrington. Rodney Combs rounds out 6th position there. He is 34 seconds off the lead. We'll ride it along with Rusty Wallace here. So Rusty Wallace still leads here at Daytona. 5 seconds back to Jeff Bodine. Keep an eye on Rusty here as he kind of runs through lap traffic. Not much else, nothing else really exciting going on throughout the field. Right behind him, though, a lot closer than I thought. Neil Bonnet, Dale Earnhardt. Some gap between them, but 8th and 9th will cycle out here in the next 10 laps or so to be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in theory. Take a look at Jeff Bodine currently. Wallace has lost some time there. Jeff Bodine's catching him, or did there for a little bit. Caught about 2/10 off of him. Darrell Waltrip has got back by. It's got by Rusty Wallace. Darrell Waltrip now only 1 lap down. He's 19 laps into his pit cycle. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Contender early now, struggling to be a factor as we near the halfway point. 90 in the books, 110 to go. Top 5 at this moment. Rusty Wallace over Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd, Brett Bodine in 4th, and Buddy Arrington 5th. Should expect about maximum maybe 8 laps before Rusty Wallace will have to pit. Not checking pit lane here, not seeing anybody on either end. Go back to Rusty Wallace. As Dale Earnhardt got by Davey Allison there for 9th. Bill Elliott gets by Davey Allison for 10th here. Pit stop, Harry Gant, 33 car. Go back to your leader. Rusty Wallace continues to lead here. Harry Gant exited pit road here. Currently in the 37th spot. Go back live with your leader, Rusty Wallace. Uh-oh, Harry Gant may have crashed. That's what it's saying. Let's watch. Not seeing anything there. Dale Earnhardt and Davey Allison had an incident. Jimmy Sauter may have crashed. Trying to check the channel log, see what might have happened. Davey Allison, an incident with him. Let's see what we can find here. Contact with Earnhardt puts Allison in the wall. Allison's going to fall back hard. That's a good running car. Out of contention now. Chet Phillip heads pit side. Here goes Allison, limping it around on the apron. Remington, I believe, headed pit side. Bodine pits. Ricky Rudd headed out of pit lane. Chet Phillips is out of pit. Go back to your leader and live here. Here comes the pit cycles for those top 7 cars. Lap 97, or 98, excuse me now. Wallace heads pit side. Wallace is in. Check pit lane. Pretty much it at this point, other than Allison. I believe that's Ron Combs. Wallace still leads. He's going to exit as the leader. Neil Bonnet, here's your race for the lead. Rusty's going to have to follow the apron all the way around. That's going to hurt him. Neil Bonnet, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and Bill Elliott, now your top 3. Here's your race for the lead. Rodney Combs gets back on the track. Neil Bonnet leads over Dale Earnhardt. So a little bit of a screwery there as I'm trying to mess with ATVO and try to teach myself that. That's kind of the whole purpose of doing this video, and hopefully doing the whole season, is trying to learn some broadcasting stuff. So bear with me. It's been a good show so far. We'll learn some new things as each race progresses, and hopefully the streams will get better and better. So trying to figure out the replays and stuff like that, but yeah, focus back here on your leaders. So Neil Bonnet now has cycled back to the lead. Dale Earnhardt in second, Bill Elliott in third. Their last pit stops about 17 to 20 laps ago. Rusty Wallace, though, not far behind, just pitted. He's in fifth, only about 2.7 seconds behind the leaders. So depending on how this goes, Rusty Wallace, through all these pit cycles, is still staying relevant. Had a good pit strategy that time. Go back to the race for the lead. Waltrip there right in front of Neil Bonnet. Waltrip is back on the lead lap, provided he can stay in front of Neil Bonnet. He is a driver that would like to see a caution as we now complete the halfway point of the race. Waltrip was a dominant factor early. Hasn't been much noise since then. Richard Petty and Phil Parsons battling for 19th at the moment. There goes the 52 Jimmy Means. Earnhardt got by Bonnet there on the outside. Bonnet's going to fall back a little bit as they work some lap traffic. Earnhardt now leads over Elliott. Waltrip has to stay in front of them to try to be relevant. Rusty Wallace got by Benny Parsons for fourth. caught back up to the leaders here. He's got fresh tires though. Pitted 5 laps ago compared to the top 3 about 20 to 22 laps ago. So Rusty might have outsmarted them and outran them. Be interesting to see here as we are now in the back half of the race. 102 laps complete here at Daytona. Top 5 at this moment. Leading the 9 of Bill Elliott, second the 3 of Dale Earnhardt, third goes to the 75 of Neil Bonnet. Rusty Wallace has caught back up to the leaders after the pit cycles to get P4. Benny Parsons sits there in P5. He's had a nice recovery after falling back a couple laps ago. Let's take a look at Davey Allison. He is now headed back off of the pits. He's 8 laps down in 38th now after getting into that contact with Dale Earnhardt several laps ago. One of the favorites to win had dominating performance throughout most of the first half of the race, but an unfortunate circumstance, a little bit of contact coming out of, I believe, turn 2, put him into the backstretch wall. That has knocked him out of contention here today. First car lap down, 28th place, 52 car of Jimmy Means. Again, that paint scheme has not been loading here today. 29th, Rodney Combs. Give some love here to the lap cars. 30th to the 19 of Derek Cope. Connie Saylor, 31st. 32nd to Steve Chrisman. 33rd to Mark Stahl. J.D. McDuffie, 34th. 35th to 81 of Chet Phillip. They were in an early accident, as were a bunch of the other guys here. Harry Gant had some issues prior to the last pit stop or so, about 15 laps ago. He's now 36. Jody Ridley, 37th. That car was upside down at one point earlier. They managed to get it repaired and back onto the track. Ron Bouchard, 38th. Davey Allison, now 39th. And 40th goes to the 31 of Jim Sauter, 9 laps down. So at this moment, Darrell Waltrip, the last car on lead lap. 26 cars complete the lead lap. Neil Bonnet leads over Bill Elliott here at Daytona. It's interesting, though, to kind of go back to this point I've talked about a couple times. It's interesting to see Rusty Wallace isn't 4th. Pitted 9 laps ago compared to the leaders. He was the leader, pitted, cycled back out at one point in time, was about 4 seconds off the leaders. He's caught the leaders, but then hasn't been able to get by them. I figured Rusty Wallace would have, the way that the trend was going, would have cycled kind of back up to the lead and had the speed, everything to kind of get his way back up to the top spot. But he managed to pit and everything kind of cycled his way through. Hasn't really, once he caught the top 4 or 5 cars, hasn't really made any noise. Of course, as I say that, though, now he almost had the pass for Bill Elliott, but now Benny Parsons is going to get back by him. So, be interesting as this run goes to see what Rusty Wallace will do. Maybe we'll see him get back on sequence with the leaders. The leaders have about 15 to 17, maybe 18 laps left of fuel. Neil Bonnet is currently 25 laps into this fuel stint. We've seen about 40 to 43 laps be the fuel window or so here, pit cycle window. So Neil Bonnet continues to lead over Dale Earnhardt as Darrell Waltrip's going to head pit side. He was maintaining lead lap, had to peel off. Darrell Waltrip is going to head pit side. So First through fifth now, single file, nose to tail around the bottom. Bonnet over Earnhardt. Third is Elliott in the Coors car. Benny Parson fourth, Rusty Wallace fifth. Elliott might make a move here on Earnhardt. There comes 17 back out at Darrell Waltrip. Looks like a quick stop for him. He's going to get past Richard Petty. Terry Labonte battle now for 18th place. Let's go back to the leaders here. Lap traffic. Brett Bodine going to be a factor. Let's see if Dale Earnhardt's going to lose second to Bill Elliott as they go high. Earnhardt's going to have to figure his way around the one machine. So now Earnhardt's going to fall back to fourth. Something happened between Connie Saylor and Rick Wilson. Let's see if we can find that. Something happened to Connie Saylor and might have crashed. Contact with the 4 of Rick Mast. Saylor down onto the apron. They've got a long way around. Currently in turn 2. If they're not headed pit side, looks like they're getting maybe back up to speed. Nope, they're going to hold her down. Connie Saylor holds it down on the apron. They're going to have to limp it back pit side after the contact there with Rick Mast. Neil Bonnet continues to lead over Benny Parsons, Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, and Rusty Wallace, P5. Jeff Bodine is in 6th, but he's 8 seconds off the pace, but he battles with Morgan Shepherd for the 6th spot. Neil Bonnet, Benny Parsons race for the lead here. So it looks like Connie Saylor is almost making it to pit lane there. Other than an early caution on about lap 15 or 17, have not had a caution since then. Almost a 100-lap green flag run. As Benny Parsons now has started to drop back. Rusty Wallace is going to clear and get the 4th spot. Saylor makes it pit side. Battle for second. Elliott and Earnhardt. Earnhardt looking to the outside, going to try to make the pass. Elliott down low. Wallace, Parsons going to look to the outside. They're going to try to get by the number 9. Parsons now goes low. Wallace to the outside. Earnhardt goes outside of Elliott for second. He's going to clear him as the field heads into turn 2. Bonnet still out there all alone like the chess club president on prom night. Nobody catching him here at this time. 113 in the books of the 200-lap event. Bill Elliott now going to look to the bottom. Earnhardt's going to go low. Elliott goes low. Bonnet, Wallace, and Parsons to the outside. Earnhardt now going to peek to the outside. He's looking for that race lead. Go to the chase cam. Here goes Earnhardt to the inside. Haven't used this camera yet. There goes Earnhardt. He had to check up a little bit side by side into turn number 1. Here comes Bill Elliott on the outside. Earnhardt's going to fall back to 3rd, maybe more here. Earnhardt's going to drop back, all is said and done now, from almost 1st to 5th. Neil Bonnet's going to get passed. He's going to fall back to 4th or 5th. We ride now with Earnhardt. Parsons there on the outside. Elliott continues to lead. Rusty Wallace now has actually worked his way up into the 2nd spot. Bonnet and Wallace got a little loose there. Earnhardt's going to get back by him for 3rd. Bill Elliott, Benny Parsons, Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, Rusty Wallace in 5th. Rusty Wallace is kind of having the same trend, kind of like Benny Parsons has had that we talked about earlier. They're able to be a contender and run with the leaders, but they're a follower, not a leader. The two, honestly, 3 cars, now that we're about the halfway point, here's going to be Cody G's hot takes of the race. I think the race right now is going to be between, if it plays out in fuel strategy, it's going to be between Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, and Neil Bonnet. My dark horse I'm going to pick is Rusty Wallace. His pit strategy has really surprised me. And then the fact now that he's kind of running with the leaders, not able to kind of exactly be up there and outrun them, but stay with them. Depending on how these pit cycles go, especially because we've only had 1 caution, I would not be surprised if Rusty Wallace could pull this off on fuel strategy. So that's my top 3 picks to win. Elliott, Earnhardt, Bonnet to win with a dark horse of Wallace. I'd like to see, though, personally, I'd like to see what happens to Darrell Waltrip. He's currently 2 laps down, though, but he's not far behind the leaders, so pending a caution or maybe some good luck, he might be able to get his way back up there. I want to take a moment, let's check in on Rick Wilson. He had the contact earlier with the 6 and Connie Saylor. No issues for them. Bobby Hillin Jr. pitted about 3 laps ago. No issues there for them. Go back up front to your race leaders. Earnhardt looking to the outside. Bonnet to the inside. Wallace now going to get P3 away from Benny Parsons. Neil Bonnet's going to start to fade. It's Bobby Hillin Jr.'s exiting his pit road cycle. Mark Stahl heads to pit. Morgan Shepherd battle for 7th. That race is about 8 seconds off the lead. So top 5 all within a second of each other or so. Then it's about 9 seconds back off the leader for Jeff Bodine, Dale Jarrett, Morgan Shepherd, and more. So leaders should be pitting soon here. Earnhardt last pitted 37 laps ago. Benny Parsons last pitted 38 laps ago. So Earnhardt, you see him kind of fall from 1st to 4th there in that top 5 pack. So we'll check pit lane here. Got some early takers. Terry Labonte, Cale Yarborough, Kyle Petty, Ronnie Thomas, Bill Elliott pits. Bill Elliott heads pit side. He's going to be the first in that top 5 to pit. Now mind you, Rusty Wallace is still on a different sequence, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Benny Parsons leads over Neil Bonnet. Neil Bonnet now gets by. The battle's on for the lead. Bunch of cars head to pit lane. Earnhardt's going to get P2 as pit stops for Bonnet and Parson. Earnhardt and Wallace will race. Earnhardt will probably pit this time. He's been a late pitter throughout these runs. Wallace is going to get by him now for the top spot. Earnhardt's going to try to get back by on the outside. Earnhardt, as we go back live here, continues to lead. He's going to go another lap. Interesting to see how that plays out. As Neil Bonnet and Benny Parsons, make sure I'm live here, are headed out of pit road. They're now a lap down throughout this pit cycle. Earnhardt coming out of 2 down the back stretch. I expect him to pit this time. This is his 40th lap of this pit cycle. If he's really adventurous, maybe go another lap or 2. I just don't see that happening though. Earnhardt to pit. Earnhardt to pit. So that's going to move Jeff Bodine up as a couple more cars head pit side. Looks like Dale Jarrett and Donnie Allison. So Wallace now leads over Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd. Earnhardt's 4th on pit road though. 5th place Donnie Allison, 6th Dale Jarrett, 9th Bill Elliott. He's going to manage to probably get a couple of spots cycle through this. So it'll be about another 12 to 15 laps, and your top 3 will have to pit. So Earnhardt's off. Bill Elliott's already passed him or passing him. See how Bill Elliott's going to catch him. So here's going to be your battle for the race lead. Elliott's going to get by him. This will be your battle for the race lead in about 12 laps. Elliott's out ahead by about a second and a half now over Earnhardt. Wallace leads over Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd. Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt are a lap down. Top 3 still will have to pit. So in about the next 12 to 13 laps, the battle for the lead is between Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, Benny Parsons, Neil Bonnet. Those 3 are all together. So if Earnhardt and Parsons and Bonnet can start to catch Elliott, that'll be a good battle for the lead, and the band will be back together to what it was prior to the pit stops. Remember, we had Elliott, Earnhardt, Parsons, Bonnet, and Rusty Wallace were the top 5, all kind of running single file there. Jeff Bodine in 2nd. He's almost 10 seconds off the lead from what my scoring shows. Ricky Rudd's over nearly 20 seconds back. Earnhardt is a lap down. He's looking to be about almost 26 seconds off the lead. So we ride with Rusty. Dale Earnhardt has got by Bill Elliott. Not sure exactly what happened there. We'll try to do some replay. Dale was well behind him. Was it lap traffic? Maybe that was a factor? We're just outrunning him. Go back live. Earnhardt caught him and passed him by a lot. Earnhardt does have 3 less laps on his tires, so we do see a lot of the rubber in the corners. Tire wear has been a factor with this old abrasive Daytona, so it wouldn't surprise me that those couple extra laps that Bill Elliott has on his tires might play out to hurt him and help to Earnhardt's advantage. So within the next 10 laps or so, Earnhardt will be your race leader, but it's currently Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak 27 car. He's got some lap traffic to do. Looks like Bobby Hillin Jr., Harry Gant, Chet Phillip he's going to have to work around. Bodine still 10 seconds back from that, though. Not really a factor at this time. Big squiggle there from Wobble battle there from Wallace. He's going to have to try to get by these lap cars. Jeff Bodine, though, not really catching him. Bodine, as we see live, he's at the tri-oval when your leader is in turn 2. So about a whole 2 corners between first and second here. Earnhardt's in turn 4 as the leader is, so he's ahead of him. Harry Gant coming to pit now. As we look live. Harry Gant in the 35th spot. Tough day for the School Bandit car. Rusty Wallace leads the way. Jeff Bodine still about 10 seconds back. P2 out there by his lonesome. Ricky Rudd is going to be P3, caught in some lap traffic here. About 19 seconds off the lead. And Dale Earnhardt still a lap down, but he should cycle to your race leader here within less than 10 laps. Bill Elliott now still behind Earnhardt by about 2.5 seconds. Parsons right on Elliott. So what'll be your battle for second is between Elliott, Parsons, Bonnet, Brett Bodine, not too far behind them. A good run for him. He's kind of cycled back up into the 8th place throughout that run. But unfortunately, he's going to have to pit within the next 5 to 6 laps. We check on the race leader, Rusty Wallace. This is where it might get dangerous, though. Dale Earnhardt is still on the lead lap. If Rusty gets by Dale Earnhardt, that might make things interesting. Earnhardt, on my end, is shown to be lead lap in the 4th position. Bill Elliott is a lap down, but Earnhardt is still ahead of Elliott on the track, so when Wallace, Bodine, and Rudd have to pit, Earnhardt should still be okay. He'll only be 1 lap down. Darrell Waltrip is 26. He's 2 laps down. The first car 2 laps down. So Wallace now is going to peek to the inside, but not able to get by Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt going to go to the bottom. Waltrip and Wallace. It's Jim Sauter. So Rusty Wallace on lap 37 of his fuel run here. Again, I think 40 or 41 is about the max. Brett Bodine heads pit side. He was in the 8th spot. Ricky Rudd heads pit side. Buddy Arrington, Jeff, and Brett Bodine, Chet Phillip are pit side. Wallace continues to lead. The Bodines have fallen back to about 20th place. Rusty continues to lead. Jeff Bodine soon to go a lap down. Rusty Wallace now, only car on lead lap. Dale Earnhardt now P2. Rusty Wallace only 38 laps into this run, so in theory he's got about 3 laps before he absolutely will pit. Earnhardt, though, not far behind him. Bill Elliott a good ways back behind Earnhardt. wait and see when Rusty comes to pit. Take a look at Ricky Rudd. He comes out of pit lane. Go back to your race leader, Rusty Wallace. Heads into turn 1 and 2. Kyle Petty is going to get by the 22 of Bobby Allison. Rusty Wallace into turn 3. Wallace is going to head hard on the brakes. That might be hard on the brakes. Is he going to be speeding? That looked awful fast coming in. It's going to be tough to see what happens for Rusty Wallace on his pit stop. See how long his box score is. Still waiting for him to get to pit lane. He is in the box now. 5 seconds in the box. Earnhardt still has not passed him. Earnhardt's gaining though rapidly. 13 seconds in the box now for Wallace. About 20 to 23 seconds is normal. So Wallace, no penalty for him there, surprisingly. Not appearing he's going to have a pit stop penalty. As there's Earnhardt, there's Wallace, there's your race for the lead. Earnhardt's going to get by Rusty. Is Bill Elliott going to get by him, though, is the question. Bill Elliott, Benny Parsons, so that's going to cycle Rusty Wallace back to 5th. Not too far, though, away from 4th place. Neil Bonnet, only about a second and a half back. Now gaining over 2 seconds as he's trying to get up to speed. Again, no cars around him, so that draft in the arrow, we'll see what happens to Rusty. Earnhardt now leads over Elliott, about 2.2 seconds ahead. Second, third, fourth, all there. Elliott, Parsons, Bonnet. About 2.7 seconds behind them is Rusty Wallace. Still about 25 laps or so before Earnhardt, Elliott, Parsons, and Bonnet will have to pit. So we're on lap 140 this time. Say they go 25, that's 165. So in theory, the leaders are going to be about 5 laps short, pending any cautions. Some rough math here. Now Elliott, Parsons, and Bonnet have 19 and 18 laps on their run. Rusty Wallace just pitted, so he's good till he'll be about 20 laps short, approximately, being that he just pitted. So if he goes another 40 laps, that's lap 180. He'll be able to pit about lap 180 and be good to the end. Your race leader, Dale Earnhardt, he's on lap 16 of his sequence. Say we'll use 40 for number's sake. So 24 laps is 164. That means he'll need about 40, let's say 45 laps of fuel. So he's going to be about 5 laps short. So pit cycles will be interesting here. The one thing the field is going to really need at some point to kind of put some parity in this is a yellow flag. But unfortunately, I'm not sure that we'll see that happen. So we've been about 120 laps here without any events. So we're nearing the 3/4 completion mark of the race. This Rusty Wallace now has caught Bill Elliott, and the race is on for second. Parsons now by Bill Elliott. He's going to put some pressure onto Rusty for second. Rusty 1.3 seconds off of the lead. He's got the freshest tires. See if he can. Oh, he's already gaining. He's about a second now off of Earnhardt. But there are some lap cars to deal with. Looks like Harry Gant and Bobby Hillin Jr., I believe. Earnhardt's going to peek to the low side. So we see Rusty there in the picture. Earnhardt to the bottom. Rusty's going to kind of go to the second lane there. So Earnhardt now puts 3 cars in between himself and second place Rusty Wallace. Rusty pitted 5 laps ago in the Kodiak 27 car. He's going to have to make quick work of the lap traffic if he wants a shot at Earnhardt. But again, we still are looking at least about a 2 pit stop race for 2 to 3. Like I said, I think the leaders will be 5 laps short, and they still have a pit stop coming up. Rusty's going to be about 15 to 20 laps short. So it's a 2 to 3 more pit stop race. Rusty's been on the way different strategy than most of the field. The only one on a similar strategy as Rusty Wallace is 6th place Jeff Bodine, but he's 10 seconds off the lead, so he would not be a factor. Other than him, Ricky Rudd in 10th is on a similar strategy, but he's almost a lap down, or half a lap down, almost 20 seconds off the lead. Earnhardt continues to lead. Benny Parsons second. Elliott, Bonnet, and Wallace, your top 5. Second through 5th there. Second, third, fourth, and 5th, all kind of in a bundle, if you will. Throw a blanket over them as Earnhardt continues to lead. Earnhardt's catching 22nd place Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip managed to get back on lead lap, but unfortunately it looks like he's going to get cycled back to 1 lap down. Waltrip is actually now the last car on the lead lap. 22 cars on the lead lap here after all the pit cycles. Wallace now going to get by Neil Bonnet for 3rd. Bill Elliott 4th. So they're trying to work around the 31 car. That's Jim Sauter, currently 40th place, 10 laps down after an early incident. Wallace in second. He's going to start to clear some lap traffic there. He's working to get by the school band at 33 there, Harry Gant. But he's bringing Benny Parsons with him close in tow. Bill Elliott, the tail of that little pack. He's P5. Bonnet up to P3 now. He's going to get by Benny Parsons. Bobby Hillin Jr., Harry Gant causing a roadblock. Bill Elliott now is going to make some noise. He's going to get up to 3rd. Earnhardt continues to lead by about 1 second over Rusty Wallace. 1 lap car in between them. That's the 38th place machine of the 47 car. That's Ron Bouchard. Earnhardt leads over Rusty Wallace. Still, Earnhardt 0.6 of a second, 0.7. That lead is shrinking. It was almost a second and a half at one point. Earnhardt only 25 laps into this run. Wallace 11 laps into his run. Difference of tires might be a factor here, and Wallace might be able to snooker him here in the next couple laps. Rusty Wallace still 7/10 behind Earnhardt. They did dispose quickly of Ron Bouchard. Wallace now clean track, got his sights set on Earnhardt. Let's take a look on board of Rusty Wallace and see what he's looking at here trying to catch Earnhardt. Lots of work in that wheel there. So he's now gained 3/10 off of Earnhardt, only about 4/10 off the lead. Wallace is going to be close. About 15 laps difference in pit cycle. Like I said, I think the leaders, or I shouldn't say the leaders per se, but I think Earnhardt, Bonnet, Elliott, Parsons, and Morgan Shepherd in 7th, they should be about 5, maybe 8 laps short. Wallace, I believe, is going to be 10 to 15 laps short here at the end. About 14 more laps and your leaders will have to pit. But here's Rusty Wallace, and the rest of the company has caught Dale Earnhardt. Benny Parsons, though, has kind of got hung up. He's caught in between Harry Gant and Ron Bouchard in 5th, so he's kind of lost that main group. So Earnhardt still holds the lead over Rusty Wallace. Is currently 4th now, as Elliott and Bonnet got back by him. Bobby Hillin Jr. giving them some trouble. 22nd place car. First car a lap down. 21st place, the 50 of Greg Sachs, currently the last car on lead lap. As Darrell Waltrip had pitted or had issues, he's 2 laps down. Earnhardt, Bonnet, Elliott, Wallace. Here comes Benny Parsons starting to creep his way back up there as he started to get by some lap traffic. Elliott's going to peek to the inside here. He's going to try to get by the 75 Valvoline machine of Neil Bonnet. Bill Elliott to the outside there, looking for a peek. Couldn't make a move. Top 3 are almost nose to tail here with a little bit of space back to Rusty Wallace. 1, 2, 3, 4, all there in a pair with no lap cars between them. But then there's 1 lap car, the 8 of Bobby Hillin Jr., back to the 35 of Benny Parsons. So the top 5 are all pretty close here. It's going to be a race to see how they all race together and what happens. Because mind you, out of everybody in the top 5, 4 of them, the only guy right now that's going to be quote-unquote to the good is Rusty Wallace. All those other leaders will have to pit within the next 10 laps. Bill Elliott should probably be the first one to go as he gets by Earnhardt now. Elliott's usually leading and then the first one to come in during the pit stops. He last pitted 33 laps ago. So expect him to be one of the first ones to come in here in about 5 to 6 laps as he gets by Earnhardt. 154 laps complete. So if we pit on lap 160, they should, looks like the leaders, they might make it. Especially Earnhardt. He's only 31 laps in this. If he can go another 10 laps, that's 165. He'll need 35 laps out of a run. Earnhardt should be good with 1 more stop. I think Elliott Elliott pits in 5 more laps. He'll be right on the money. I think Earnhardt should be good. I think Benny Parsons. I think Earnhardt's going to be the best. Bill Elliott pitted 35 laps ago. Parsons, Bonnet pitted 34. So Earnhardt can go an extra 2 laps compared to them on fuel. So we're really starting to look and see this abrasive track really starting to show as we see all the rubber now really starting to show up on these cars. Lots of tire wear on this old abrasive concrete Daytona surface. Especially see that on some of the back markers there, like Bobby Hill and Jr. He's the 22nd place car. Take a look at him. All that rubber buildup there. See it a lot on Rusty Wallace's Pontiac car there. The 17 of Darrell Waltrip. So we'll go back to your battle for the lead. Bill Elliott continues to lead. As Neil Bonnet's trying to work his way around Dale Earnhardt here. If the leaders pit on lap 160 or a couple laps past that, I think they can make it to the end. If they pit any sooner, they'll have to get about 40 laps of fuel. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bill Elliott, he's 37 laps into this run. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to stretch this out to put him right on the money to try to get this run. Earnhardt had some issues there. He's fallen back to 5th. Wallace got by him. Might be in a little bit of maybe some fuel save mode, but now he's going to look to the outside of Wallace and try to get back by for 4th. He's going to probably manage to do that. So Rusty Wallace and Darrell Waltrip had an incident a little bit ago. Maybe that's what happened to Earnhardt. Earnhardt checked up. No. Ooh, yep, there was the move. As we go back live, Bill Elliott leads over Neil Bonnet, Benny Parsons, Earnhardt now by Wallace for 4th. He's close into Wallace has kind of fallen off. They're in some lap traffic. Comers and goers here late. So Elliott continues to lead over Neil Bonnet, Benny Parsons 3rd, Earnhardt 4th. About half a second there off the lead, but 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of running single file in a pack here. They pass by the 82, that should be 33rd place car, 32nd place car, Mark Stahl. Kyle Petty comes to pit. He should be right on the money down to make it to the end, as Neil Bonnet's going to make it by Bill Elliott. Elliott's going to be the first one to pit. This is lap 160. .40 to go. So he's going to pit. Or Neil Bonnet's out there on his 39th lap, so he's going to go about 40 laps. So I believe Bill Elliott was 1 lap or so higher than that. So this is going to put Bill Elliott pretty much right to the last lap on fuel. So we will go here to your leaders. Bonnet goes low, Earnhardt goes high to split the 30 of Michael Waltrip. Bonnet's going to pit. He's going to bring Parsons with him. Earnhardt's going to stay out. Be interesting to see how this cycles out because track position is going to be key. So we look for Bill Elliott. He's now out of the pits in 13th. Earnhardt leads over Rusty Wallace. Earnhardt here out of 2. Michael Waltrip going to look to pass him back on the outside. Future teammates there. Not that we're time travelers or anything. We don't know anything about that. pit side. He should be about 2 laps to the good or so. That's going to hand the lead to Rusty Wallace, Rusty Wallace, 3rd place, soon to be 2nd place. Jeff Bodine is going to have to pit. Jeff Bodine 10 seconds or so off the lead, it looks like. Donnie Allison heads to pit side. He would inevitably be 3rd. So there's Earnhardt's pit side. Let's try to find Bill Elliott is turn 2. So Earnhardt might be able to hold. He needs to be that first car out in order. He needs to come out ahead of Bill Elliott. That's all that needs to happen. Actually, he would need to come out ahead of Neil Bonnet. Rick Wilson just pitted. Neil Bonnet. Is Dale Earnhardt going to stay above him, though? Neil, 2.2 seconds. It's going to be close. I think Earnhardt will at least have something to say here. Half a second above Bonnet. 0.3, 0.2. Bonnet's going to catch him. So this is now your race for the lead. So once the top 3 will still have to pit, and then there'll be plenty to the good. Bonnet and Earnhardt should be definitely good, as they're only 1 lap complete. They'll be good in this fuel run. So this now is your race for the lead, inevitably should be for the win. 4th place Neil Bonnet, 5th place Earnhardt, 6th Bill Elliott, 7th Benny Parson, and that's it. It's going to be between Bonnet, Earnhardt, and Elliott. And Parsons might have some noise. Rusty Wallace continues to lead. Him and Jeff Bodine and Ricky Rudd, the top 3, they all have yet to pit. They'll have about 13 laps or so, 10 to 13, maybe 15 laps before they decide to pit. Wallace is 27 laps into this run, so we can expect about 12 laps out of him. Here should be your race battle for the win and inevitably the lead. Earnhardt's going to get by Bonnet for 4th. Earnhardt's going to pull away. Earnhardt has 1 less lap than Bonnet does. Bonnet pitted 3 laps ago on lap 162. Earnhardt pitted on 164. That 2-lap difference of fuel and tires might be a winning factor for Earnhardt, as the top 3, Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, and Ricky Rudd, still will have to pit. But Rusty Wallace, as I say, this is in turn 1. Earnhardt's not much far above him. Earnhardt's down the back stretch, but Wallace is only a little bit above him. So Earnhardt might even get his lap back naturally. And then when the pit cycle happens, he might even be able to lap Rusty Wallace, depending on how that goes. So this is getting exciting here with less than 50 laps to go, less than 40 laps to go actually here at Daytona. Earnhardt leads, or Earnhardt P4, Wallace leads, excuse me. As we now see both of those cars in the same frame. Earnhardt around the outside there. He's got by J.D. McDuffie. Only 2 or 3 cars left between, looks like the 32 or the 33 of Harry Gant and the 62 of Steve Chrisman. Earnhardt now to the bottom. He's going to look to unlap himself without a pit cycle or without a caution. Dale Earnhardt, remind you, he won the Busch Clash here, that 10-car field, 20-lap shootout. So Earnhardt has a lot of momentum rolling into this 1987 Speed Week, this Daytona 500. He has been the fan favorite in the Wrangler number 3 car. We'll see if he can put the whole race together. We see the bumps there, really bumpy spot in down the back stretch, or down the back stretch. Pulled out a southern accent there. Got a little tongue-tied as Earnhardt now has caught Wallace. So this, in theory, is pretty much Earnhardt eventually, once Wallace pits, Earnhardt will be the leader. This is to get back on the lead lap. Bill Elliott still a lap down. Neil Bonnet, though, he's a second or more behind Earnhardt, so Bonnet might get his lap back. Benny Parsons and Bill Elliott are a little bit farther back than that. Rusty Wallace continues to be the scored race leader. Once he has to peel off, though, that Wrangler number 3 should be your race leader. Third place, Ricky Rudd, about 19, I'll almost say 20 seconds off the lead here. P3, him and Jeff Bodine and Rusty Wallace all will have to pit. Pretty much everybody else looks to be about good other than Rodney Combs in 22nd place. He's on the same strategy as your leaders, but he is a lap down. Chet Phillip, 34th place. He's 37 laps into this run, so he'll have to pit soon. Jody Ridley and Davey Allison also will have to pit, but they are not a factor. Connie Saylor gets by Jim Sauter for the 39th spot. Sauter has to pit from the last place position. Reminder, they had early damage in the race. They are 11 laps down. So let's go back to your leader here, Rusty Wallace. We see a little bit of damage, though, it looks like, on that Rusty Wallace machine. I'm pretty sure earlier it was damage with, I want to say, wasn't it Darrell Waltrip a while ago? And that might have altered some handling or some speed on that 27 car. As we try to look here, doesn't really look like it's damaged from that angle. Just looks like it has some right there underneath what would be the left headlight. It looks like it has a dent or something in it. So maybe that is a factor as we look at his front compared to Earnhardt's. Earnhardt's looks like it's a lot more square. Wallace's looks a little bit more curved. Maybe my eyes are fooling me here, but Wallace continues to lead. Rusty Wallace 36 laps into this pit cycle, so he should be pitting within the next 4 to 5 laps. He's going to get back by Earnhardt, put Earnhardt back a lap down. The 5 of Jeff Bodine has done a pit stop. He's now 7th. Ricky Rudd has now pitted from the 2nd spot, so that leaves Rusty Wallace in theory left to pit. And he's going to stay out and complete another lap. Bonnet, though, is catching Earnhardt. That's going to be a future battle for the lead as they get by Ricky Rudd. As Rusty Wallace currently is the only car on lead lap. Earnhardt, Bonnet, Bill Elliott, though, a good bit of ways back. 4.5 seconds away from 3rd place Neil Bonnet. So Bill Elliott, Benny Parsons might be out of this. The race might be between Earnhardt and Bonnet, as they have Greg Sachs in the 50, though, in between them. Neil Bonnet's going to have to deal with his fellow Valvoline car. .25 to go this time. The 8th of the race is all that remains. It's now a clean track between Dale Earnhardt and Neil Bonnet. Neil Bonnet looks like, I think it's my eyes fooling me, but it almost looks like he's got some front end damage on the lower front bumper there. Rusty Wallace to the pits. Rusty Wallace to the pits. We'll ride along with him. That's going to give Earnhardt, in theory, the race lead if he can catch him. So we'll watch go between Wallace and Earnhardt. Earnhardt heads into turn 1 here. He's getting held behind the 6 of Connie Saylor. Needs to get around her, or him, them. I don't know. I'll be dead honest. Pretty sure it's a him. They get around Connie Saylor as Wallace sits in the pits. Earnhardt now into 4. Wallace is going to peel off the pits. Earnhardt headed to the tri-oval. This is the race for the lead here. Wallace is off pit road on the apron. Here comes Earnhardt. You can see Rusty Wallace there on the apron. Here comes Earnhardt. I think Earnhardt's going to catch Rusty. It's going to be close. Rusty still not up to racing speed, has it? Okay, now he's clear to blend on the track. Right here is your race for the lead. Wallace is going to get past. Earnhardt has full speed. Wallace going to be second, but Neil Bonnet's going to get by him. Bill Elliott way back there out of contention, so it's going to be Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, and Rusty Wallace now is your race for the 1987 Daytona 500 win. Okay, and my apologies about Connie Saylor. I did not know my old NASCAR history. Connie Saylor is definitely a male competitor, so my apologies there. Not too familiar with the 87 history, so don't know why I also thought Connie was a female name. Please don't cancel me. I don't know. So Rusty Wallace has held over Dale Earnhardt. Lap traffic is a factor. Take a look at Connie Saylor there, the gentleman in the Kroger number 6. Now that I pulled up my NASCAR history and made sure I did that call right. Again, my apologies there. Still trying to learn the history and the roster. So, Connie Saylor, the gentleman in the Kroger number 6. Rusty Wallace leads over Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt is 7/10 of a second back. Wallace has the advantage now of tires, though, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out if Earnhardt can run him down. Davey Allison there, 37th place. They were involved with, I believe it was the 4 of Rick Mast earlier. Davey Allison was a good competitor early. Now they're 8 laps down. Earnhardt, 7/10 of a second, still behind race leader Rusty Wallace. 20 laps to go here at Daytona. 50 miles is all that separates Earnhardt or Wallace from a Daytona 500 win. Rusty Wallace has pulled out to 9/10 of a second lead over Earnhardt. Connie Saylor now up to 39. Good to see a run for him. I'll learn this dang roster and everything one of these days. Learn my NASCAR history. We'll get better as the season goes through. Wallace leads over Earnhardt. 8/10 of a second. Earnhardt looking to get by the 30 of Michael Waltrip. Peeking to the outside. Waltrip goes low. Earnhardt's going to get by him. Clean track now between him and Wallace. He needs to get a good run, try to get maybe some draft or some aero, and try to get by the Kodiak 27. 27 car is going to have to work around 36th place Davey Allison. They were battling for position most of the first half of this race before some lap traffic woes took Davey Allison out of contention. Earnhardt's gaining 6/10 of a second gap now, gained a 10th or 2 on Wallace. Half a second back for Earnhardt. Wallace still leads there. He's going to have to find a way to get by the 28 of Davey Allison if he wants this Daytona 500 championship. Earnhardt now 4/10 of a second back. Neil Bonnet 2.5 seconds off of the lead. 2.1 behind Earnhardt. He's trying to work by the 33 School Bandit, Harry Gant. Earnhardt now within 3/10. Got the pedal to the floor, trying to make something happen here. So we'll look through the field here. I want to try to find the 9. Bill Elliott is 5th, but he is... Him and Benny Parsons are battling for 4th, but they are nowhere near Neil Bonnet. Neil Bonnet is nowhere near Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt now less than a 10th, within a 10th of a second of your race leader, Rusty Wallace. Wallace has not been able to get by the 28 of Davey Allison, and now it's opened the door. Here's Earnhardt, the intimidator. Dale Earnhardt looks to the outside. He's going to try to find a way around Rusty Wallace. 15 laps to go around Daytona. Finally, Wallace goes to the inside. Earnhardt's right on his bumper. This is your race for the lead. Wallace on about 14 lap fresher tires, though. That might be a factor here. Wallace loose on the bottom. Earnhardt outside, but he's stuck behind the 28 of Davey Allison. Now Earnhardt shoots high. Wallace to the inside. Earnhardt going to almost clear. Not quite. Earnhardt has now cleared Rusty Wallace, but he still has to dispose of the 28 car of the Haviland car of Davey Allison. Earnhardt's going to look low. Rusty Wallace hasn't made the move yet. He's trying to still stay in that draft, get as much run as possible. Now he dips to the inside. Your leaders finally get by the 28 of Davey Allison. Earnhardt got by Rusty Wallace. There's now a lap car between them. Can Earnhardt pull away? A 10th a second and some change is all that separates first and second. 13 laps to go here, 187 in the books. Earnhardt leads it into turn 1, now through turn 2. Top 2 is all that's a factor. 1.9 seconds back is 3rd place Neil Bonnet, but as we've seen in that picture, he's starting to close on the 2nd place car of Rusty Wallace. Bill Elliott, though, 8.3 seconds off the lead. Not likely going to be a factor. There's Rusty Wallace high, Davey Allison low. He needs to get by the 28 car if he wants another shot here at Earnhardt. Earnhardt continues to lead. Wallace now, they've made it through all the lap traffic. Earnhardt out to an almost 3/10 a second lead, but Wallace staying close in tow. Ten to go next time by. Earnhardt over Wallace. Neil Bonnet out there by his lonesome, not too far behind, only about a second and a half off the top two. 2/10 is all that separates Earnhardt and Wallace right now. It's going to be, I think, Earnhardt will be good on fuel. Wallace will be good on fuel. Fuel should not be a factor. Earnhardt's 27 laps into his run. He can go about 40. There's 10 laps to go. So that should put him 37. He should be 3 laps to the good. Rusty Wallace is only 14 laps into this fuel stint, so he should be plenty good. It'll be interesting to see if tires are at all a factor, though, as Earnhardt has 14 more laps than Wallace. It's time at the line, 9 laps to go. Earnhardt looking to get the Daytona 500 trophy. Earnhardt now to almost half a second lead over Wallace. Earnhardt really starting to pull out to a commanding lead. About 9 laps to go here. 191 complete on lap 192. Buddy Arrington gets by Jimmy Means. There's a race back here. Check in on our Connie Sailor. I wish I'd have researched that. I still feel like an idiot. My apologies to anyone out there for that. Anywho, let's go back. Earnhardt racing for his first Daytona 500 win. Rusty Wallace still 4 tenths and a half behind Dale Earnhardt. I've gotten tongue-tied here. All types of confused during the second half of the race. Earnhardt has Jody Ridley and Rodney Combs to deal with. Needs to get by them here soon, as Wallace now is starting to make a charge. Earnhardt looks to go low. He's not going to make it happen. Wallace now right on his bumper. Earnhardt on the outside, Wallace in tow. They've disposed, now there's a lap car between Earnhardt and Wallace. Looks like the 64 car of Rodney Combs. Six laps to go for Earnhardt. Wallace second. Neil Bonnet in third. Hasn't gained any track position. Earnhardt still has regained his lead now, about 7/10 of a second ahead of Rusty Wallace. Got a lot of lap traffic though ahead of him. Terry Labonte there, 18th place in the car number 11, the Budweiser car. Earnhardt's going to have to work his way around Terry. Lap traffic will be a factor in this race, coming to the end of it, coming to the checkered. 55 of Phil Parsons now to the outside. Lap traffic racing ahead of Earnhardt. This might be his kryptonite. Rusty Wallace now within 2/10. Earnhardt's going to the outside. Looks like he's going to put another lap car in between him and Rusty Wallace. Every time Rusty starts to get within a tenth or two, Dale manages to get a lap car or two in between them. Buddy Arrington down below Earnhardt. Earnhardt almost got 3 wide there with the 18 of Jarrett. And I believe that's the 82 of Jimmy Means. I don't know. Or Mark Stahl. Mark Stahl. Earnhardt out to half a second lead now. 4 laps remaining here at Daytona, the 1987 Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt's going to look to the inside here. The 52, Jimmy Means. It's one of the other cars, him and Dale Jarrett, the 2 cars here not wanting to load paint scheme wise. Thanks Trading Paints. Earnhardt leads over Rusty Wallace. Three to go. That's Darrell Waltrip coming out of the pits there. Two by two battlings ahead of Earnhardt. 3 cars between him and Rusty Wallace though. Neil Bonnet still has not caught that pack quite yet. It's going to be between Earnhardt and Wallace, but I think Earnhardt's going to have this one in the bag. Coming to 2 to go this time by. It's a 3/10 of a second lead for Earnhardt over Rusty Wallace. Looks like the 11 and the 30 car head to the pits. Earnhardt had to check up. Rusty Wallace got by him. That might be the race move for the win. Wallace now leads 3/10. Here comes Earnhardt though. It's not over yet. 2/10. Earnhardt about to be right on his bumper. Earnhardt's been really good through lap traffic. Let's see what Rusty can do. Side by side down the back stretch. Earnhardt to the outside. Earnhardt's going to pull in front of him. And looks to put Davey Allison, I believe, there in between them. Coming to the white flag. Earnhardt leads. Rusty Wallace right on his bumper. They got to work by the 55 car. That's Phil Parsons, Derek Cope, I believe, right there in the 19. Earnhardt's going to get by him. Rusty Wallace now still in tow. Might be able to make a move. Side by side, Rusty on the outside, Dale on the bottom. Who's it going to be side by side through turn 2? Oh, my Lanta. Wallace is going to pull back ahead, but can't clear Earnhardt. Oh, Rusty clears Dale. There's Bill Elliott coming out of the pits. Earnhardt's going to have to get a shot at the bottom through 3 and 4 here. It's the last lap. Rusty's on the outside, Dale on the bottom. Dale's going to have to figure out some lap traffic. Can't quite get it done through 4. Right on his bumper, though. Coming to the line. What a freaking race. 20 years of trying. He's going to have to wait some more. Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak 27. Lap traffic is a factor. Rusty gets the Daytona 500 championship. By good goodness, what a race. Oh, my Lanta. Dale Earnhardt, just like real life, tries and tries and tries to get the Daytona 500 win and didn't happen. Ugh. Rusty Wallace, your Kodiak 27 car, is the race winner. Dale Earnhardt second, Neil Bonnet third, Jeff Bodine fourth, Donnie Allison fifth, Bobby Allison sixth, Ricky Rudd will be seventh, Kawicki eighth, Rick Wilson ninth. Good rebound for him in that Kodak number 4 car. Benny Parsons rounds out the top 10. A solid day for them. Top 5 car most of the race. Morgan Shepherd will be 11th. 12th will be Ernie Irvin. 13th, Phil Parsons. 14th, Dave Marcus. 15th goes to the King, Richard Petty in the STP Pontiac. 16th, late race fallback for Bill Elliott. 17th, Greg Sacks. 18th, Cale Yarborough. 19th, Kyle Petty. Rounding out the top 20, Brett Bodine. 21st, Terry Labonte. 22nd, Michael Waltrip. 23rd, Dale Jarrett. 24th goes to Jimmy Means. 25th to Buddy Arrington. 26th, Bobby Hillin Jr. 27th to Rodney Combs. 28th to Ronnie Thomas. JD McDuffie is 29th, and rounding out the top 30, Steve Crispin. 31st, Darrell Waltrip. 32nd, Mark Stahl. 33rd, Chet Phillip. Harry Gant. 34th, Jody Ridley. 35th. The final 5 cars, Davey Allison, after being dominant the first half, finds himself 9 laps down in 36th. Ron Bouchard 37th. Derek Cope 38th. Jim Sauter 39th. And rounding out the field, our beloved Connie Saylor. So that'll do it for me here. About a 2 hour and 45-minute broadcast. Lots of hiccups. Not too bad though for a first full ranked stream. So painful there to see Dale Earnhardt lose that into some late race traffic, but good to see Rusty Wallace get a Daytona 500 win. Thanks everybody if you watch this video for bearing with me through all the hiccups. Please don't cancel me because I didn't know my driver's Connie there, but Connie Saylor. But did some quick Googling and found out and got that call right. So again, it's been fun. This has definitely been a learning experience. Anybody watches it, thank you for watching. Again, it's Rusty Wallace who picks up the 1987 Daytona 500.